Hey guys, welcome to Quinian's Budget Crafts. So, one big problem I have with Gaslands is I can't get anybody to play with me because they don't want to make teams. So, how about we make some pre-made teams? Got motorcycles, I got sedans and buggies and hot rods and drag racers and sports cars and some police and there's trailers and I got tanks and like Humvees and stuff for like Rutherford. Even got some little bitty micro machines for doing like the RC bombs and stuff. So yeah, let's clear this mess out of here and then start on making some teams. Okay, so starting with Rutherford at the top of the sponsor list here. Just gonna go down the whole list. They are the only ones that get helicopters and tanks, so I definitely want to do those. And I want to do 2 tanks in case you want to do a game of Tank Commander. With the weapons you see here, I'm going to magnetize them and put little plates on the cars so that you can hot swap them out later. But I will use the ones you see here on the pre-made, character card thing, so that people who are new to the game can just pick it up and play. People who want to modify their things can still do that too. Anyway, so the first thing here is the helicopter. I actually do want to keep the glass intact, so go ahead and pull that out. And then all these mold lines on here, the helicopter and the tanks are from the dollar store. They have mold lines on them, so you're going to need to scrape those off with an X-Acto or use a rotary tool, whichever you prefer. On these printed ones, I wanted to go ahead and clip off the little guns that are on there. They're too hard to see anyway, and I don't think that they would stay. One good bump and they're going to come right off anyway. So we'll go ahead and snip those off. These tanks have little wheels under them so that they can roll, and I found that when your cars are able to roll in the game, that really messes up your placement. So go ahead and take those wheels off and then snip off the little holder things. Save those wheels for later though, you might want them for something. With the tank barrels, I did take the rotary tool, the small little bit on it, and then hollowed out the end of the barrel so it has some depth. And if you look at the side of these tanks, they have some little nubs sticking out. I think they're supposed to be idler wheels, but they look really stupid, so I'm going to put some armor panels over the side to hide that. Just going to use some wide popsicle sticks, trim to the right size, and super glue them on. Then I decided that one gigantic armor panel was also kind of stupid, and went through and marked it about an inch or so apart, and then went through and cut some notches into it to make like separated panels. And then I took a whole bunch of these little gold thingamajigs and glued them on to make rivets around the corners. Kinda tedious. I meant to keep this simple, but I just couldn't resist. With the cars that I printed, I went ahead and ground down some spots where I wanted to put metal plates for the magnets to stick to. Of course, if you're grinding resin, make sure you're wearing a mask because this stuff's not good for you. So with the helicopter, I was going for sort of, not really an Apache, because I think this helicopter is supposed to be modeled after like a Blackhawk, but kind of that idea where it's got like the wings that hang out with the stuff on them. So I decided to go ahead and use the back window section of the helicopter to stick a popsicle stick through, and then I can use that to mount my stuff to. Just figured out how much space I was going to need for the popsicle stick, and then cut that away. And then using a second popsicle stick, I went and made like a template. It's kind of wing shaped, just so it's not a big rectangle sticking out. Just use the grinder to grind it down to a nice taper. For the metal to actually stick the magnets to, pretty much any kind of thin, lightweight metal that's still pretty rigid is going to work for you. I have a whole bunch of these tins I got from Amazon. I got like 50 of them for $5 or something. They cut apart pretty easily with some snips and some scissors. And you can make a little square, whatever you need to stick in there. Just made a little square for the back of the Humvee here. A couple drops of super glue and drop it right in. It'll stay. I also did one on the top where the actual turret thing on the Humvee is. And if your little piece of metal is warped, you can use like a little spoon or anything like that. Any kind of hard metal thing to just smash it flat. For most of the weapons, I went through and drilled out a little hole in the base. The magnets I'm using are 2x4mm magnets from Apex Magnets. I think they have like a 1 pound pull strength. It's not a ton, but it's enough to hold things on for you. Of course, you would get more pull strength if you had magnet to magnet contact, but that you got to worry about polarity and stuff, so magnet to metal is fine. But just drill out your little hole and then super glue a magnet in there. If you're handy with 3D, you can just make a little 2x4mm hockey puck and then cut that out of your model before you print it. And now we got a couple spots on this Humvee that you can just swap some things around on. There's a different gun style that has like these little mounts it goes onto. They all swivel and come apart and whatnot. Those ones are super cool, and I would link them, except I can't find them because things on Thingiverse keep changing names and getting pulled down and remixed. Just put Gaslands in Thingiverse, you'll find them. Anyway, with those ones, you can get away with just gluing the mount to whatever you want, and then you can pull them off the peg and swap them out that way. With the tanks, I put one small mount on the back of the turret, and then on the other turret, I cut that whole section off that would normally have a machine gun in it, and put a magnet plate on that so that you could put a bigger thing on there. For the helicopter, I magnetized the end of the wings, and then I put one of those little peg mounts on the inner portion so you can switch that out with whatever you want later. And like I mentioned before, with the Humvees, I've got two spots so you can stick stuff on. It depends on how big the thing is. I mean, obviously you can't fit like a giant gun in that little square, but you can swap things around a little bit. So with all the tinkering done, we can go ahead and spray everything with some flat gray primer, and then start painting up whatever you want. I'm going to go with the classic camo. Easiest way to do this is to put giant swaths of color in brown, olive green, and black, and then go through and use a watered down version of each to kind of modify the colors a little bit to make them not quite so large. Started with the brown, kind of got that everywhere, and then went in with the green. And then I went in with the black. So the black wasn't working out quite how I wanted to. I suppose it actually does kind of look like the old school camo, but I ended up doing that with an airbrush later. But while I have the black on a paintbrush, I just use that to go ahead and do up the helicopter blades, the tires, anything like that. So yeah, I wanted the black patches to be a little less obvious, I suppose, so I went in with the airbrush and kind of fudged the lines, so it's not quite such a drastic shift. I know camo is called camo patterns, but the whole point is that it's not a pattern, so the more random you are, the better. As for the weapons, you can paint them however you want. I suggest not doing any sort of color scheme because they're supposed to be able to be swapped out between different teams. And if they're painted up to look really cool on their own, then they kind of stand out, so it's easy to see which of your cars has what things on it. With all the weapons here, I went ahead and painted all of them flat black, and then went back in with some green on the ammo boxes, on the missiles, did some red highlights on the missile tips, and then this MLRS launcher thing here looks like it's got a couple little computer parts on it. For the flamer, I went ahead and painted red on the fuel tanks and the little fire symbol on it. And used some gold on any kind of linkage for the ammo belts. Also tried to do a little bit of yellow around those the tips of the green missiles. Didn't have the steadiest hand there, but it's fine. Little silver wherever you might need some metal. Any kind of banding or like solid faces, that sort of thing. And then I realized that I'm not going to be able to get the glass back into the helicopter with the popsicle stick going through the middle of it. So I just went ahead and trimmed that off with the rotary tool. It popped right back in. And I need the helicopter to be flying. It looks kind of dumb sitting on the ground. I happen to have a bunch of this Lexan laying around. I used it before in the video where I showed to make clear bases. So I just cut a chunk out of that where I had already cut out a circular base because it has a nice curve to it. And just sort of trim it to fit so you got like a curvy L-shaped thing for the helicopter to stand on. Cut a notch into a 2-inch base and then glued it into that. And then I can glue the helicopter to that. There we go, and now we got the helicopter on a little stand. Looks like it's flying. Don't know why I didn't film it, but I did end up painting that base black. So let's do up some character cards. For the first tank here, obviously it is a heavyweight. It has 20 hull points. All tanks automatically have pivot, all-terrain up and over, may count one gun as a turret without paying for the cost, has 4 build slots, 3 crew, 4 handling, max gear 3. So with those 4 build slots, what we're going to do is we're going to call that turret a 125mm cannon, which is a tank gun. And I know it doesn't really look like it, but we're going to call that little thing on top a mortar because it only takes 1 build slot. Also, because the sponsor is Rutherford, that gives you +1 ammo to both of those guns for a total cost of 50 cans. Tank number 2 is going to be pretty similar. It's going to have the same stats. It's going to take the 125mm cannon as a turret. And the gun on top will be a heavy machine gun, because again, only 1 build slot for the same cost of 50 cans. So the helicopter is also a heavyweight. It has 8 hull points, it has Airwolf and Airborne, handling of 3, crew of 3, max gear 4. It also has 4 build slots. However, helicopters also get bombs away. When purchasing weapons for this vehicle may count dropped weapons as requiring 0 build slots. So we're going to use 1 build slot for that minigun on the front. Going to use 2 build slots for those 2 rocket pods. We're just going to count them as 1 rocket thing. And then the 2 pods on the outside, we're going to call those dropped weapons, so 0 build slots. Considering what they look like, and it's a helicopter, I'm going to call them napalm droppers. We're just going to go with 1. Just count the 2 just count the pair as 1. For a total cost of 41 cans. For the Humvees here, all 3 of them are going to be heavy trucks. They're all heavyweights. They all have a hull of 14, handling 2, crew of 4, max gear 3. The main difference here is the weapons. Starting with the one with the giant rocket pod on it. It has a set of rockets on it. That only takes 2 build slots, so you still have 3 left. But just for the sake of simplicity and not confusing a new player, we're just going to leave it at that's a rocket truck. You can add more stuff to it, there's room to do so. But yeah, that one's got rockets. Of course, it's going to have 4 ammo because of Rutherford. The one with the flamethrower has a flamethrower. That's again also only 2 build slots with 4 ammo because Rutherford. And you can add more stuff to the little mount on the rear if you want to. And then the other one with the dual machine guns there, we're going to call that 2 heavy machine guns. Also only using 2 build slots. And that way you have an extra 3 build slots on all 3 of these trucks, so anybody who wants to modify their stuff, they can do that. The one with the machine guns and the rockets cost 29 cans each, and the one with the flamethrower costs 31. So there you go, there's a pre-generated Rutherford team plus tank commander team if you need 2 tanks for that. Pretty sure the next sponsor in the book is Miyazaki. Of course, as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.